Just getting started with email marketing as an artist, maker, or handmade business owner? If so, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to be chatting with my friend and Klaviyo email marketing expert, Holly Marsh, about some beginner steps to get started with email marketing. Holly is the founder of E-commerce Arcade, where she specializes in leveling up your e-commerce game with Shopify as well as Klaviyo for e-commerce email marketing. She's an illustrator and branding designer with more than a decade of experience selling handmade products online and in person. Hi, Holly. So if you are working with a client who doesn't have any email marketing whatsoever, how do you get started?
Well, they definitely need to get started because one thing that I hear from clients all the time is they all wish, myself included, that they started collecting emails way sooner than they are. And that's okay. If that's been you, it's okay. Just give yourself a permission slip not to beat yourself up and work to start collecting emails is the very first thing that you need to do. And then the next thing would be to select a platform.
And which platform? I was chatting with a student in the Badass Creators Marketing Accelerator the other day, and they were like, what platform do I use? And my suggestion is like whichever one feels easiest to you and that you will actually use. But do you have recommendations?
Well, my go-to is Klaviyo, and that is because I work mostly with e-commerce centric entrepreneurs, and it's literally built for e-commerce, and I know it really, really well. And its integration with Shopify, which is also what I specialize in, is just wonderful and really well done. I'm kind of along the lines of the same thing that you recommended to that student is pick one that feels good for you that you will use. I do try to encourage people to use Klaviyo, but at the same time though, I had a student in a group that I was presenting to, and she said, I've been in Klaviyo, I don't get it. And she just seemed really frustrated. But there was another platform that she had used and was comfortable with. And I said, just stick with that one then. If it causes you to actually send out those emails and to use that tool, there's no wrong tool.
Yeah, because when you're just getting started with email marketing, you have to start somewhere. So you can always start with a tool that feels simple and easy to use. And as you get bigger, you could move to something like Klaviyo with a Shopify website.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we have a platform. We're started gathering email addresses. Maybe we're doing craft shows and literally getting people to write it down in a notebook because that's a super easy way to go. So then what do they do once they're in Klaviyo or whatever their favorite email marketing platform is, MailChimp, MailerLite, whatever it is? What do they do?
Well, it depends on the platform because some of them have a lot more options than others. But I would say if it has automations, I highly suggest setting those up and testing them. Testing them is so important. So some of those automations, at least the basics that I tend to start with clients, is a welcome series. And that's a series of 1 to, it could be 5, it could be 7 emails. And we usually space them about a week apart. You can go a little bit closer, but not to overwhelm your new subscriber. And that automation is triggered when someone signs up for your email list, and then they get to know you through these emails, and they're more evergreen in nature. And then the next two that I usually set up are a browse abandonment, which is kind of like, I compare it to as if your store online is a brick and mortar and you're saying hello as someone walks through the door. And it's just a friendly way to say hello to someone who is already familiar with your business and shop and kind of just looking. And then the next one is abandoned cart, which of course we've almost got them to the finish line of converting on your site. And an abandoned cart really helps people focus in a very busy internet world.
Yeah, and it's like doing them a service. I remember chatting with some people at a conference and they were like, oh, isn't an abandoned cart email kind of spammy? And I was like, no, like what if you have like a toddler who ran in and distracted you while you were literally about to pull out your credit card and buy the thing? Like you're just helping them.
Exactly. And I mean, I have ADHD, and so the internet is wonderful and also terrible at the same time. So any sort of browse abandonment or abandoned cart is a really lovely thing for me to be like, oh, that's right. I was trying to buy Mother's and Father's Day cards and I got distracted, and that is something I need to do on time so I don't miss the boat. They can be really
Yeah.
helpful.
And that's one of the beautiful things about using Shopify and Klaviyo together is that sort of stuff is really just baked in, right?
Yes, exactly. The integration with Klaviyo and with Shopify is so, so good. And the data gets, they share the data so tightly that there are times where I'm like, I'm glad that these are my customers and there's no other extra things. Like you're not Klaviyo is not the type of platform that's just going to send a random email to someone who stumbled upon your site and has interacted with your business never since that point. So it's always about who's familiar with your business and has done something to be added as a contact in Klaviyo.
Perfect. So if you have never done email marketing, first thing, start collecting those email addresses. Pick a platform. Klaviyo is great, especially if you're already on Shopify, but just pick something and use it. And then set up those automations if you can do that.
And speaking of signing up for emails, I did a test a few years ago when I ran my handmade business and I was doing craft shows pretty regularly. And I did an experiment of how many emails can I get people to sign up, or how many emails can I get via an iPad at a craft show versus like old-fashioned clipboard and pen. And hands down, the clipboard and pen and paper won out. Like, people like that tactile response to writing their name, which means that sometimes, yes, you have to interpret handwriting, but they like that experience better than, typing on an iPad, or at least verbally trying to tell you while they're checking out during a transaction.
Yeah. And that's just proof that you can make these things simple. They don't have to always be overly complicated and overly techy if that doesn't feel good for you. Do what makes sense for you and your business.
Exactly.
So tell me more about campaigns. What does the setting that up look like? What does that look like for a handmade business?
So a campaign can be differentiated between like an automation, in that they are more one-off and they're more time-centric or time-sensitive emails that you would send to people who are subscribed to your list. And I know a lot of folks really struggle with sending those consistently, myself included. We all struggle with it. But the great thing about it is, by sending it consistently, whatever that cadence is for you is so crucial, because people know when to expect it. And it helps keep your business top of mind. Does that mean you need to send every week? No. If that doesn't work for you, try every month, or even if that's too much, try every quarter. But you really don't want to go too long without sending a campaign to that list. Otherwise, 6 months or a year could go by, and then all of a sudden, when your email pops into their inbox, they may not remember subscribing to you, and they may unsubscribe, which isn't great, or even worse, mark as spam, which we definitely don't want.
Yeah. And yeah, I always recommend pick a cadence that works for you. Like you said, at least once a month is kind of preferable, but once a quarter can work too if you're super busy. And pick a template, kind of an example that you kind of always follow every single time, so you're not having to reinvent the wheel. If you need examples of that, I have a video right here, so go check that one out.